Dear learners, welcome to Arpit in Library and Information Science at IIT Delhi. I am Jagdish Arora. I will be giving talk on library and MOOCs, the role of libraries. In this talk, I will be covering about e-learning, web-based resources, synchronous and asynchronous learning, e-learning, content creation and content hosting, and I will be giving example of EPG Pathshala, Vidyamitra, Swayam courses in LIS that InfluentNet Center have been offering. Swayam Prabha is another example of e-learning resources. I will be talking about MOOCs, its definition, evolution, type of MOOCs, its advantages, challenges and disadvantages, and important MOOCs platform including Swayam. So, to begin with, if you look at this presentation, it shows the amount of time, the amount of activity that happens in a single minute on the web. So, which includes about emails. If you look at the number of emails that are exchanged, it is 2 crores 4 lakhs emails are exchanged every minute. 72 hours of content are uploaded onto the YouTube. 4 crore searches are conducted on Google every minute, and 24 crores 60 lakhs images Facebook interactions happens, and likewise you can see that every minute there are lot of activities that happens onto the web in a single minute. So, you can see that 6.10 hours, 6 hours 10 minutes are spent on various apps, on the mobiles, on the web. So, in all about 6 hours every day is spent by active users onto these medias. So, the idea is that if a user is spending so much time on the web, if he is using so much time on these applications, why not bring e-learning onto the web. So, e-learning or web-based learning, synchronous learning and asynchronous learning are something we will be talking about. Now, e-learning is use of internet and related technologies for the development, distribution and enhancement of learning resources. Web-based learning is basically associated with learning materials delivered in the web environment, in the web browser, including when the materials are packaged onto the CD or other media, but they are played into a web browser. So, this for a definition. Coming to synchronous learning is a learning and teaching that take place in real time at the same time, while the trainer and learners are physically separated or they may be in the same environment from each other. Now, the example includes listening to a live radio broadcast, watching a live television broadcasting, audio video conferencing, internet telephony, online lectures, two-way live satellite broadcast and classroom lectures. So, these are synchronous learning where the learner and the teacher are placed in the same environment, they are available in the same environment. Asynchronous learning. The characteristics of asynchronous learning is the fact that trainer prepares the courseware material before the course is announced. The learner is free to decide when to take up these courses at his free time. The example includes self-paced course taken via internet or on CD-ROM, videotape lectures that are stored on video or websites, presentations in seminar, recorded audio tapes, question and answer mentoring and reading email messages. So, these are examples of asynchronous learning. There are two distinct components of e-learning. One is content creation, where the course is developed, and another is content delivery. There are platforms that are built to reach out this content to the end user. Let us look at the content creation activity. Content in a e-learning environment essentially consists of 4 components. One is e-text, which is equivalent to lecture delivered in a class. Another is self-learning. Self-learning is basically a video record including multimedia and animations, which is available to the user to watch. Third component is assessment, that the platform allows assessment of the users through questions, answer, multiple choice question, true or false statement, sequencing, matching the columns and fill in the blanks. The last and important component of e-learning is learn more. So, users is given additional information, glossaries, timeline, web link, ponder upon questions, interesting facts and did you know, these kind of things are prompted and of course, there are links to other material which they can learn. If you compare classroom learning versus learning in e-environment, in the classroom you have a lecture for a topic. The same lecture is converted into MS Word or typed in any other word processing software and made available to the user. The second is explain lecture through presentation. This is a classroom environment. In e-learning environment, the same content is explained to the user through using PowerPoint presentation, which should include multimedia, animation, simulation and other enhancement technologies, so that the presence of or absence of teacher is not felt that much. Examine student through quizzes, through question and answer, and then the web environment or e-learning environment, it is the questions are prepared in the PPT format, objective type question, false and true statement and fill in the blank kind of environment is prepared in advance and made available to the user. Lastly, you motivate a student in a classroom or guide a student in a classroom to go through additional material that are available in the library. In the e-learning environment, you ask them to go through identified sources for further reading, including books, articles, resources, website, and you also provide a glossary. You must also note that e-learning is kind of a environment where everything cannot be done by a single person. It is a collaborative environment where you have a principal investigator or a coordinator or course coordinator, because in a course there will be about 30 to 35 lectures or 40 lectures or 40 presentation that cannot be prepared by a single person. So, coordinator appoints or select individuals for delivering lectures or for delivering talks. They choose editors or reviewers to edit contents. They choose team of authors or team of writers or team of presenters who make the presentation. And then of course, there is another very important component which is animation, simulation or other animation kind of activities which have to be built into the presentation. So, these multimedia content, enrichment of resources is done by another team with where the expertise is not available with the author. So, these things is done by other teams. So, it is kind of a coordination work which is unlike a classroom environment. Next is content delivery. Now, the content is pre-created, edited, multimedia enrichment takes place. Now, this content has to be delivered to the end user. The delivery takes place through platforms like learning management system or MOOCs. These are the two major learning delivery media. When it comes to learning management system is a broad term used to describe software tools designed to manage user learning interventions and provide access to online learning services for students, teachers and administrators. It is a software system that allows development and delivery of education courses using the internet as a delivery medium. Moodle and eTutor are some of the examples that are available in the open source. So, comparing library management system with traditional methods, what matters in a class is classroom size, whereas LMS has its own capacity, time. The traditional method is limited to time, where LMS is not, it is available 24 hours. It is ability to tailor courses, LMS allows that for every student, whereas it may not be allowed for the classroom or it may not be feasible in a classroom environment. LMS makes it affordable, the element of consistency can be incorporated and it is a method of interactive learning. E-learning and MOOCs role of library. I would like to share my experiences that I have learned at InfluentNet Center. In InfluentNet Center, I was involved with several e-learning program I just like to show them to you and show how library or the people with library background participated and contribute to it. EPG Pathshala is one of the example, which is e-contained for postgraduate student and in about 70 subjects. So, there was 70 subject where the course were developed, which includes about 23,000 e-texts, 23,000 videos, 4,100 subject experts were involved, and the number of papers or courses that we had at the end of the project was about 710. This include library science courses. About 7 courses are being offered on SWAYAM out of this EPG Pathshala. Of course, about 20 courses are available in library science in EPG Pathshala. So, InfliBnet administered these projects and maintained the LMS which is called EPG Pathshala. It was the anchor institute for about 5 subjects including library and information science. So, this is a snapshot of EPG Pathshala where you can see the list of various subjects that are there. So, efforts of library staff in EPG Pathshala included in recognition or identification of subjects expert, authoring of e-modules, guidelines were prepared, content, repository and hosting, and metadata. The metadata enrichment using LCHS, Library of Congress subject heading, was done by the library staff. So, coming to identification of subject, the library science staff identified these subjects based on the number of people or number of universities that are offering these programs. So, we went to the websites of the university, we went to the university handbook, we looked at the Web of Science, most productive research area, and then identified these subjects. We also looked into the Vidwan database, Web of Science, and most cited Indian authors to identify the people who could deliver these courses or people who can prepare these courses. We also made authoring tools or authoring guidelines for the people. For e-text, what should go into e-text, how should the subject flow, module details, structure of the module, style of writing, font size, all these things were developed including plagiarism check, IPR issues, permissions, all those things, all the guidelines were prepared. For self-learning, we made a template for the PPT, uniform applicability, multimedia, animation, simulation and virtual directions, how it should be done, empanelment of multimedia vendors done by the InfliBnet Center, and then we also made guidelines for storyboard. How would you make a storyboard for animation so that it can be handed over to a third party who will come up with the animation based on the storyboard that you have prepared for him. For self-assessment, we made guidelines for about 10 to 15 questions, multi-choice type questions, true and false statements, correct sequencing, fill in the blanks, and 4 to 5 subject questions. So, these guidelines were developed by us, and of course, for about 20 courses or 20 papers that we have done, these items were done by library staff, by various paper coordinators including myself. And then of course, guidelines for learn more, did you know, interesting facts, timeline, glossary, points to ponder, glossary, 4 to 5 subject questions. These were the guidelines that we prepared that every course must incorporate these things. We also made guidelines for the content writer, how to write your contents, how to sections your contents, what should go into your module, those things. So, there were guidelines for e-content development projects, submission of for assistance to UGC. So, detailed guidelines were prepared by the library staff or by the InfliBnet Center. We prepared guidelines for copyright transfer forms. We prepared an MOA which was signed with the principal investigators, and we developed EPG management system. A tutor of course was used for it, and a tutor was configured, but then of course inputs from the library staff, from computer staff at InfliBnet was taken. So, this content repository was prepared or developed or modified using open source learning management repository. eTutor was customized to host EPG Pathshala contains were organized using 6 major subject categories of Web of Science, and EPG management system was developed to facilitate administration of activities of the project. Metadata enrichment was an important component that was contributed by the InfluMNet. Content was organized in the repository in 6 major subject headings of Web of Science. Library of Congress subject heading LCSH, which is RDF compliant, was plugged into the LMS for assigning subject headings. Additional keywords were provided by the library staff at InfluMNet for each module. This is another project called Vidyamitra, which was basically all projects done by the government, especially the MHRD, were incorporated into a single interface called Vidyamitra, including content that are developed into EPG Pathshala. So, it is one of the largest repository. In fact, it got an award for largest repository, a Word Award at Netherlands, and this repository included about 44,000 e-text, 60,000 video contents, and out of this 46,000 is for UG, 22,000 for PG, and there are about 37,000 other content that are available, and there is a mobile app available for this particular repository. So, Vidyamitra is an online learning portal for all the e-content projects that are developed under NMEICT. It provides seamless access to e-content developed by various PIs and bring them together under a single umbrella, enabling users to access all content through a single platform at all levels. So, it includes UG, PG, school education, everything. It adopted digital preservation strategies to ensure long-term availability of content over a period of time and make e-content available to students and peers using different delivery mechanism to impart formal and informal education for supplementing and complementing the process of teaching and learning in higher education. For a background, there are about 60 programs, 60 NMEICT programs that were awarded to various people, which included 49 e-content programs and of course 26 programs that were not e-content. So, about 60 programs are incorporated into Vidyamitra. For several of them, websites were not available. If it was available, it was not functional. Content was not accessible online. Content with the same subject developed under different projects were available, and unavailability of frozen or incomplete projects. So, these are the problems that we encountered and we solved them. Of course, content were hosted onto the platform, a special platform for developed for the purpose. It was enriched with the metadata. I mentioned that LCSH was plugged in. It was classified for UG, PG, all kind of subject headings were assigned, and navigation was made possible. Suggestions and recommendation of material was inbuilt, and there was statistics generated as to how many people logged in, how many visitors, how many downloads, all kind of statistics was inbuilt into this methodology. So, if you look at the methodology that was used, we acquired the content, we analyzed the content in terms of type, volumes, format, we standardized the content, assigned metadata, automated linking with other resources, search and browse interfaces were prepared. Various processes like data pre-processing was done for video. It was like the content was split into various components like text, video, learn more and quizzes. Then data processing was done, metadata was assigned, subject headings were assigned. We organized the content into 8 major subject categories, assigned subject headings using LCSH, and assigned level of studies in terms of UG, PG, school, and backend database called MongoDB was used for this purpose because the content was too many and too varied. Of course, formats were developed so that subject expert can fill in preliminary work like subject domain, subject syllabus. Subject domains and subject syllabus were linked to the data. Metadata was assigned for the contents. Now, the end product, you can see the major subject headings, 8 subject headings, the website, and the content that are available, the filters that are available for searching, a typical search result including federated search components. The content and these 4 formats are also tagged differently. Social media tags were also given, and one can own his own library, one can create a corner where he can save some of the links that he want to visit again. So, these kind of facilities were inbuilt into the content. Now, coming to massive open online courses or MOOCs concerned, the InflipNet Center was made the focal point for development of SWAYAM and for disbursement and coordination. We were given 14 crores for repurposing of 84 courses, which included about 7 courses in library and information science, as you can see below. And we signed an MOU with Central University of Himachal Pradesh for offering these courses to library science students and for credit transfer. Now, MOOC, as you might know, stands for Massive Open Online Courses. MOOCs is a virtual institution which provides certification of credits as the case may be. For a definition, massive open online courses are courses aimed at unlimited participation on open access via web. Oxford Dictionary defines MOOCs as a course of study made available over the internet without charge to a very large number of people. If you look at the evolution, it is not very old. Evolution of MOOCs can be traced to open education resources. The first official MOOCs was offered by George Siemens of Alaska University and Stephen Downes of National Research Council, Canada. The course was called Connectivism and Connecting Knowledge in the year 2008. The course was essentially offered to 25 students at Manitoba University in Canada, and it was followed by about 2,300 students. The first truly massive response to open online course was on the artificial intelligence, which was offered by Sebastian Thurn and Peter Norvig from Stanford University in 2011. 1,60,000 students from 190 countries enrolled with this course. After finishing the course, Thurn found Udacity.com, which is a commercial initiative of Stanford University. If you look at the type of MOOCs, there are essentially 3 types of MOOCs. One is called CMOOCs, which is Connectivism MOOCs. It imparts learning in a networked environment using social network platforms, blogs, learning communities, where it is believed that the student learn from each other. Learning is a social activity, and as a social activity, it is necessary that a student interact with each other. So, CMOOCs is nothing but learner centric, where advantage of media, advantage of social network is taken. XMOOCs are based on traditional studying material of higher education, where learning involves video lectures and quiz test as method of evaluation. It more like copy what goes into a classroom. Quasi MOOCs is based on web based OERs, which are not designed for supporting classroom learning, but it lacks social interaction of CMOOCs, but basically OER contents are repurposed for making MOOCs and offering MOOC courses. If you look at the advantage of MOOCs, it is subject independent. One can take any course that you want and independent of the subject that is following. Like if, for example, if you are doing your BSc, you have a 5 subject syllabus, you have to take only those 5 subjects. Here there is a freedom, you can take a subject from arts, you can take a subject from social sciences, a subject from sciences, complete freedom for choosing course that you want to learn. You can take a course on web, how to build website and start building website. You can take a course on data sciences and start work on data sciences. It is anywhere, anytime, no geographic or time limitation is applicable. It asynchronous way of learning, where teacher and student need not be present at the same premises or at the same time. It is multimedia supplement You had a lot of multimedia, video, animation, quizzes, simulation and technology enhanced courses, which makes learning a bit easier. It facilitates pedagogical experimentation in a network environment. Look at the challenges and disadvantage. The drop rate in MOOCs is highest. It is 90%. Only 10% of the student complete the course. It addresses diverse requirements of a large number of heterogeneous students enrolled for a course, which is a major challenge for a faculty. They come from different background, they have different language skill sets, their understanding is different. Since there is no qualifications for entering into a course, you might get students who have no background for a given course, but still he is enrolled because the MOOCs are designed that way. It is given lower weightage by employers. Employer having students from a traditional universities are preferred than those who have acquired their qualification through MOOCs. Creation of MOOCs is time consuming and expensive activity, and it involves multiple players. So, unless there is a complete coordination into multiple agency, the core MOOC course cannot be developed successfully. MOOC courses are not accredited and online evaluation is inadequate and provides room for cheating, because in an environment where it is anywhere, anytime, any place, it is not possible to impose a controlled environment, and therefore, the evaluation is inadequate. More than that, because number of students are large, it caters to the masses, the techniques and tools that are used in traditional exams cannot be deployed in case of MOOCs. If look at the interest search conducted on the MOOCs on Google, you can see that it peaked sometimes in 2015. The of course interest level may not sustain now, but you can see that it peaked in 2014. A lot of searches were being done at that time. India ranks 13th on search volume on the MOOCs related search queries on Google. Let us look at some of the important MOOCs platform providers: EDX, Coursera, Udacity, Udemy, p3pu.org, Khan Academy and Swayam. Swayam is our national MOOCs platform. EDX is a massive open online course providers and online learning platform. It hosts online university level courses in a wide range of disciplines to a worldwide audience at no charge. Of course, some of them are charged. It also conducts research into learning based on how people use its platform. It was launched in 2012 and participating institution as on 2016 was 70 schools and more than 110 partners. It has a funding of about 16 million US dollar, and it is available in multiple language including English, Mandarin, French, Hindi, Spanish, and number of users are about 10 million as on October 2016. Look at the courses, the range of courses that offer. You can see sciences, you can see science of happiness, you can see introduction to nutrition and food, and diverse topics that are there for offering. Visitor at use, EDX, you can see it is coming from across of India, across the world, including 13% from the India. Coursera is an education platform that partners with top universities and organizations worldwide to offer courses online for anyone to take for free or for a fee. It was launched in 2012 and 150 leading universities participate in it from 29 countries. The number of registered users are more than 24 millions. A number of languages available including English, Spanish, French, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, Portuguese, Turkish, Ukrainian, Hebrew, German, Italy and Portuguese. Visitor to Coursera, you can see India participate in large number, about 14% and 30% from US, including 8.4% from China, 3.7% from Russia and 2.7% from Brazil. Udacity is another important platform for MOOCs. It was born out of Stanford University experiment in which Sebastian Thurn and Peter Norvig offered their introduction to artificial intelligence, one of the largest successful MOOC courses that was enrolled by 1,60,000 students from 190 countries. So, Udacity has a 21 million funds. It was launched in 2012, 1.6 million users are registered and it is available only in English language. Udemy is another platform for MOOCs, an important platform. Udemy is the leading global marketplace for teaching and learning, connecting students everywhere in the world and provides best instructions. Aaron Bailey, who is the founder of Udemy, is a Turkish nationalist. He partnered with two other people, Orketi Kegler and Gagan Beyani, towards a common goal to make quality education more accessible and improve lives through learning. It offers more than 1,30,000 courses in 60 languages and it was founded in 2009. As of now, it has 245 million students registered on it. You can see the courses that they offer. It varies from science, technology, humanities, all kind of courses are offered on the platform. Look at NPTEL, our own program done by IITs and IISc Bangalore, and it is visited by 69% by Indians, 6.5% from US and other countries as well. So, if you look at the three aspects vis-a-vis courses, there are paid courses, there are free courses. Paces could be scheduled driven or it could be self-paced, and instruction could be university courses or private firms. So, there could be different mixes that are available. If you look at the cycle of traditional courses, the courses are delivered in a classroom. The library has a major role. The students are asked to go to the library, read the books. The lab work is important. They go to the lab, conduct their labs, and they of course prepare for examination, appear in the exam, and then the results are declared. This is life cycle of traditional courses. Look at the life cycle of MOOCs. You have to apply online, enroll yourself, engage in teaching and learning, and learn persistently till you complete your course. So, method of learning is different in context of video tutorial, case studies, demonstrations, self-try to get engaged and involved in organized manner. It has a flexibility, attendance is not compulsory, it allows massive number of students. There is no need for any eligibility criteria to take admission in any of the courses. So, it varies from traditional learning system. Now, let us look at the life cycle of MOOCs. A course is proposed by the faculty, course contents are developed, repurposed, posted onto the repository, contents are uploaded on MOOCs platform, students are enrolled and courses are delivered. And students' activities, quizzes, interactions through social platforms happens. There are proctored examinations, especially in the SWAYAM, and then core credit are transferred or certificates are assigned. So, we have already gone through the major platform which are available worldwide, but in India it is the SWAYAM that reigns. The major players for SWAYAM in India are UGC, CEC that stand for Consortium for Education Communication, IGNOU, NCERT, NIOS, IIM Bangalore and NITER. UGC is involved with PG level courses, CEC is involved with undergraduate courses, IGNOU is involved with certification courses. NPTEL is basically technological based courses, engineering and other related fields. NCERT is in the school education, NIOS is also in school education. IIMs are basically involved, IIM Bangalore for management based courses, and NITER is involved for training and retraining of engineering and engineering faculty. This is SWAYAM platform. This again I have listed the coordinators for various sectors. The responsibility for teachers and learner, the teachers create courses, create contents, upload courses, define courses, start the courses, assist learners in the process of learning and take examination, prepare for examination. Learner is required to enroll for courses, study the courses, interact with teachers, appear in exam and get credit or certificate as the case may be. As you know, UGC has come up with credit framework for online learning courses through SWAYAM 2016 regulation, where a student is allowed to take 20% of the courses from SWAYAM platform. So, he can take courses, say for example, if there are 5 courses offered in a semester, he can take one of the course from SWAYAM and complete it and earn credit through SWAYAM instead of taking credit by attending classes in his own university or college. So, this freedom is provided by this UGC regulation. What is involved in adopting MOOC in a university? The step 1 is to make amendments into your ordinances, regulations and rules. Incorporate that there is a provision for transfer of credit through MOOCs. So, adopt UGC regulation. Step 2 is select the course. Select the course that you would permit your student to take from MOOC platform or from SWAYAM platforms. So, the student in a given class should be asked to enroll en masse for a given course. So, that you do not, the university does not run that course, it only supports students in getting that course. In case they have difficulty, the sessions can be conducted to take that particular course. Designate course coordinator, there have to be course coordinator who interact with the student for a problem that they fall. So, he guides students through courses and to facilitate conduction of lab, practical sessions, examinations, etc. Step 4 is disseminate information. Disseminate information about courses to the student through faculty, notice boards, student forum, workshops and university websites. Step 5 is course registration. Ask your student to register for the course, or university itself can register every student for the course, so that all students for a given class are registered on MOOCs for a given course. Step 6 is evaluation. Evaluate student register for MOOC courses based on quizzes, assignment, sessional and final examination. So, there of course, is a coordination required in this process. Step 7 is marks of student. Get the marks from coordinating agency and incorporate these marks or grades communicated by the host institution in the final mark sheet of the student. Practical and lab components are to be conducted by the university itself, and those marks are to be assigned by the university, concerned university who takes the courses. Step 8 is certification. Give equivalent credit weightage up to 20% for the credit earned through SWAYAM received from host institution. So, this is a life cycle. As far as SWAYAM MOOCs are concerned, we have approached 2 methods. One of the method is that we repurpose content developed from EPG Pathshala, and the other is that we developed new MOOCs. So, contents were developed that are designed specifically MOOCs, they are in higher in demand and expertise, especially in areas where the expertise is not available. So, it is presumed that these courses should be coming more and more. In fact, UGC runs a running advertisement on proposal for MOOCs. You should contact eMOOCs in case you are interested to offer MOOC courses. Contact UGC, contact CEC to develop MOOC courses and offer it to it. So, thank you. I acknowledge the fact that I have taken these slides from multiple sources, from InflibNet to develop these slides and other sources, and I invite observations, comments and queries from you, and please post your queries on discussion forum that are specifically designed for ARPIT. You can also contact me at my email address, which is shown on the slide. Thank you once again.